have to make sure I'm sitting in there.
I didn't check mine.
About half the time I end up sitting here and don't even realize it.
Did you walk over to the game Friday, or
Yeah.
you did?
No, we ended up driving because was it raining or
Yeah.
we ended up driving. Well, I drove. I came by myself, and then the rest of my family followed later. So I don't know if they walked or not. But when I went to the reason I walked, I went to leave. I literally was sitting in the parking lot till 11.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out. So I just sat there and looked at my phone until I literally, but when I finally looked up, there was like 2 cars in the parking lot. I guess I can go now.
The board will now reconvene in open session, and the time is 6:26. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. It is at this time we respectfully ask you to turn off the sound of your cell phone. May I remind anyone wishing to address the board that they must have completed a public comment card before the start of the public portion of tonight's meeting, indicating that indicates the agenda item or the topic about which they wish to speak. As your Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals for the district, listen to reports presented by the superintendent and his designees, approve and review the budget, approve certain personnel appointments and contracts, and make policy for the district. Management is a responsibility of the superintendent. It is the board's responsibility to govern the affairs of the district and ensure that the district is moving forward in meeting the vision and goals that have been set on an annual basis. Meeting times for board meetings are posted on the AISD website, AbileneISD.org, and the public is invited to attend. This time, I would like to ask Dr. Gustavo Villanueva, our Associate Superintendent for Student Services, to lead the invocation and pledges. Thank you, Dr. Villanueva.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight. We ask for your guidance as we talk through the work that's before us. Give us clarity, patience, and wisdom to make choices that are best for our students, for our staff, for families, and for our community. Bless our schools and the people that we serve, and help us work together with kindness and respect. In Jesus' name, amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated.
Now we'll move on to item 3C, Board and Superintendent Announcements. Dr. Kuhn, do you have any announcements tonight?
I have just a few announcements. First of all, welcome everyone here tonight. Thank you for attending this meeting of the Board of Trustees of Abilene Independent School District. The first announcement I have is to let you know the Texas Educational Theater Association has an annual awards program called Theater Awards of Distinction. And Clay Johnson, you're here. Correct me if I get this wrong, but I believe for the second year in a row, we have been named an outstanding district. Abilene ISD has been named an outstanding district by the Texas Educational Theater Association. So I would like to ask everybody to give AISD a big round of applause for this fantastic accomplishment by our fine arts teachers, our fine arts department, on behalf of our students, and also by our students. The second thing I would like to let you know is we have put out a climate survey of our staff climate survey. We received over 500 responses. Those surveys were open for about a week, a little over a week, starting on September the 2nd. We will be, I haven't seen those survey results yet, but we will be getting those survey results from our communications department, and they're compiling those so that we can look at those and see where our strengths and weaknesses are, so we can address those weaknesses and celebrate those strengths. According to Dr. Zemer, the 500 plus survey responses means that you're going to have to help me say this right. The results of the survey are 99.9%. We have a high level of confidence that the survey results are reflective of the feelings of our staff when it comes to the climate here. The last thing I'll share with you is we have several presentations scheduled regarding the voter-approved tax rate election, and I'd like to invite you board members to come to any of these. On tomorrow, I'll be presenting at 11:30 and 4. 11:30 is for the Abilene Growth Alliance, Regional Growth Alliance, and at 4 it's at Adams High School. And then on the 15th, I have a presentation at 4 and 6:30. On the 16th, I have one at 8 a.m., one at noon, and one at 4. On the 17th, I have one at 9:30 and one at 4. And on the 18th, I have one at 4 o'clock. I didn't write down where all of those are, but if one of those works for your time, if you'll shoot me an email or give me a call, I'll look on my calendar and tell you the location. And you're certainly invited to any and all of those. We've done 9 or 10 already, and we have several more to come. So I believe we have now over 50 or 60 that are on the calendar to do. So thank you. That's all I have.
Great. Well, now we're going to push the button on a teaching moment that we like to highlight the good things that are going on in our classrooms. So enjoy.
My other two groups, are we ready to kind of showcase? I know the water bottle scene is.
Hi, I'm Nicole Sutphin Evans. I'm the theater teacher at Man STEAM Academy. Today we're going over TEAC 3A, which is create character, environment, action, and theme through the safe use of using props, costumes, and visual elements collaboratively and safely. Today my students are working on scenes that they've written with groups that I've put them together with. They have written the scenes, they're doing their own lighting, they're doing their own blocking, they've designed sets with our UIL set pieces, and I'm really just kind of seeing what they already know about theater so I know what I can teach them and how I need to help them grow for the rest of the year. I'm going to show y'all how to record your light cues. All right. So I'm going to click, and I have this all written down right here, okay? So I'm going to click record/edit right there. I never know what ideas are going to come across the table when they are writing their scenes. One of the scenes is about the secret life of water bottles and about what happens with water bottles at school and what the water bottles are thinking. And I'm just always amazed by the way that my students' brains work and how creative they are and how they think out of the box. And I love the opportunity that this project gives them to show that. We are working on building that sense of confidence, critical thinking, problem solving, and once they have this sense of confidence, I really think they can take that into other areas of their learning. I love the opportunity that this theater program gives to students who, specifically in middle school, are struggling with confidence, struggling to find their place where they belong. It gives them a platform where they feel secure to take risks, make strong choices, and develop skills that are really going to help them in so many different areas of their lives. And I'm really excited to see where we're going moving forward as a STEAM Academy with our project-based learning and how that's really helping our students become such creative, deep thinkers. And so I'm really happy to work here and really love my job.
Can we give a round of applause for that as well? That was awesome.
It seems that Sutphen is a keeper. We are glad to have her too. Let's see. We'll now move on to item 4, recognitions. Item A is TEA Educator Review Committee representatives. I'm going to welcome Miss Patty Blue to our podium. She is our Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. This is a fun part of the job. When I call your name, teachers, if you'll come and join me up here, we want to make sure that we give you a big round of applause. So this summer, there were nearly 1,000 educators from across Texas that partnered with TEA to support the development of our state assessments. That includes the STAR Alternate 2, and TCASE. We are proud to recognize several AISD educators who are invited to serve on those review committees. The teachers collaborated with colleagues from across the state to review test items, judge their appropriateness, and provide feedback that will shape the assessments taken by our students statewide. So please help me celebrate the contributions of these teachers. From Abilene High School, Sabrina Anderson, STAR English 2 Reading. Sarah Garza, TCASE Reading and Writing, and STAR English 1 Reading. Also from Abilene High. Melanie Cohen, STAR Algebra 1 from Abilene High. Brianna Kaiser from Abilene High, STAR Algebra 1. Then from Taylor Elementary, Barbara Cornerio. She was for the STAR Grade 5 Math. From Stafford Elementary, April Brannon, STAR Grade 3 Writing. Jana Walker, STAR Grade 4 Writing, Math, excuse me. And then from Craig Middle School, Jordan Parker, STAR Grade 6 Writing. These dedicated educators not only represented Abilene ISD with excellence, but they also gained some valuable insight into the assessment development processes. Their work ensures that Texas assessments are fair, accurate, and aligned to student learning. We're grateful for their service and proud of the impact that they will have on not only our students here, but also across the state. So please give them one more round of applause. Okay, ladies, the next thing is a picture with the board. So.
We're taking a picture. Thank y'all so much for what you did.
Great. Thank you for representing.
Hi, everyone. Miss Earls, could I have you take a half step to the right? There we go. Did we miss anybody? Oh, yeah, y'all feel free to come up here. Okay. We'll also post these online for you, too. See, 1, 2, 3. Couple more. Thank you.
Hold on just a second. We've got another one out here. Wait just a second. Thank y'all so much.
Way to go. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming tonight. We do appreciate the work you put in representing our district. Let's move on to item 5, oral communication from the public. The board encourages comments about the district from members of the public. Anyone wishing to address the board must have completed a public comment card before the start of the public portion of tonight's meeting, indicating the agenda item or the topic they wish to speak. We don't have any cards tonight, so we're going to move right on into consent agenda, I think, yes. Item 6. The AISD board meetings are preceded in-depth board workshops, which are held prior to our regular meetings. The purpose of these workshops are for the board to discuss items in preparation for potential consideration at regular meetings. Meeting times are posted on the AISD website, AbileneISD.org. The public is invited to attend. Does a board member have an item from the consent agenda that they would like to remove for discussion? Okay, then do we have a motion regarding items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Danny.
Second.
Rodney. Thank you. We have a second and a motion. We'll now take a roll call vote. Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. The motion passes 7-0. At this time, we're going to move on to item 7, reports. Item 7A is academic performance report. I think Patty gets to come back and give us a little bit more information, which we love to hear.
Okay, so last month we did kind of a general overview of where we were on our performance for state accountability. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into some of that information because everything is now public and official, so we know exactly where everybody landed. So I'll remind you one more time that our North Star goal is by the end of 28-29, we will have 75% of our students in A or B seats. So what we have kind of lined out is this roadmap. And if you notice, it says 34% by 25-26. That was really more the end of 25-26. Well, guess where we already are at the beginning of 25-26. So we have already met that goal, which feels really, really good. And that's because of a lot of hard work. Everyone from our classroom teachers to our campus administrators to district administrators put in a lot of work to get us there ahead of schedule. So it's pretty exciting to see where we are going to be at the end of this school year. Some of these graphics you're going to recognize. They've been on social media and some different things, but I thought it was a really good way just for us to publicly talk about this a little bit. District-wide, the district's rating went from a 70 to a 75. We had 8 of our campus that increased their rating by at least 1 letter grade. 11 increased the numerical rating, and 7 received an A or B rating. You remember last time we talked about we had a few campuses that might make the bump up to B, and we did have, I believe, 2 that made the bump. These are our A and B rated schools. We've got everything on there from elementary to middle school up to high schools. So well across our district, we've got some fantastic things going on. These are our schools that might not have raised the letter grade, but they made a significant gain in their number. I want to tell you that Cooper High School's rating killed everybody around here. It was literally a 79.4. And we tried every way under the sun to figure out how to make it a 5, and we just could not find a way to get it there. So, all I'm gonna say is they'll have it this year. We'll have another B-rated high school, if not higher, by the end of this year. If you look a little bit, you can see the trends over time. In 2022, the district was rated at a 75. You notice there's a what-if rating. That's when how our ratings were calculated was changing. So they took the data from 2022 in the old system, and then they refigured it using the new system. So the rating would have been a 69 instead of a 75 in the new system, and the new system is where we live now. So when you start comparing the 22 what-if rating to the 23, 24, and 25 official ratings, that's more of an apples to apples comparison. So you can see we've moved from a 69 up to a 75 this past year. Here are the individual campuses. The same what-if rating is in place there for you to see those. You can see that we kind of have a mixed bag. We have some that have really made the gains, the steady increases. We have some that made some drops and are working to get back up to those points. For the most part, though, our campuses saw improvement. They saw gains. Yes, we have some areas that we have some work to do, and we're well aware of that, and we are already knee-deep into that work. Our middle schools, yes, our middle schools are our area that we probably have the most work to do, and we know that, and we are already starting to try to work with those principals to figure out what we need to do here. We already do have some things in place we've already changed the RLA curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade because we knew before these scores even came out that we had a need. We were not seeing the performance of our students, so we've already made that change. And then our high schools, they range from a 79 to a 94. You've got 79 at Cooper and 86 at Abilene High. Abilene High's been that steady increase. Cooper was an increase this year. Like I said, we just missed that 80 by just a tad. So if we break this down and we look a little bit more at the individual grade performances. If you look at approaches for the last 3 years, and this is broken down by grade level, you can see for the most part there have been gains, not everywhere, but for the most part. There are some things that if you look at the data, there are some concerns. We're not going to hide that from anybody, that we have work to do, and we're looking and we're finding those places, and we are digging in to do that work. Meets, a little bit of the same story going on there. There are places that we are doing well at raising the level of our students that meet the meets level. If you remember the way that our system works, meets is on grade level. Approaches is you're getting close to grade level, but meets is where you're actually on grade level. So we want our students to hit the meets mark. So we've got some work to get there, but as you see, we have a lot of areas where we are already moving that needle in the right direction. And then masters, these are the kids, they are even a little bit above grade level, not like probably ready to skip grades or anything like that, but they are performing very solidly. They are definitely ready to be at the next grade level and to perform successfully there as well. Then the math performance. Yes, math is a little bit more of a concern area at this moment. We seem to be struggling to move the needle. This is a conversation that my folks and I are already having conversations about what do we need to do? How do we need to help the campuses with this? You remember in elementary, we are implementing the Bluebonnet curriculum this year. So far, that implementation seems to be going well. It's just like any new curriculum. Yes, there's little road bumps we're working through. We have a lot of support in place to help teachers as they have needs and those questions and things come up. And we seem to be able to address them and get them their answers and get them the support so they're ready to do this. Not saying I've heard everything, but I have not heard a lot of the negative pushback. So a lot of the prep work we did to be ready for Bluebonnet this year seems to be paying off for us. So we're starting kind of some of those conversations about what do we need to do to look at math potentially in the same light. Same thing here, meets. Meets is actually the on grade level. And there are some numbers that jump out pretty quickly and pretty drastically in our math data. And then masters as well. High school EOC performances. Over the past 3 years, you can see that our English 1 has remained fairly close to the same, which is a point of we don't like it staying the same. We want it to get better, and so that's something that the high schools are working hard at. English 2, same thing. Little bit higher performance though than the English 1. Our algebra is doing really well. Algebra tends to be one that is a struggle, but we seem to be getting that one figured out. Biology, yes. That is definitely an area to be celebrated, in U.S. history as well. That's your approaches. Now we look at our meets. And we look at our masters. Again, we want the meets and masters numbers to be up higher because we know that when kids reach meets and masters, they're truly ready for what lies beyond. And that's our goal. We want kids ready for what lies ahead of them. And so we really want to be working to push our kids that we need them to hit meets and masters. So we know that if they go on and they go to college, they're ready for it. If they go on and they go to work, they're ready to tackle whatever training or anything like that that's going to be involved for them to learn the job that they've chosen to do. So federal accountability. We have state, which is what we've been talking about. Now we have federal. The great news for us on federal, if you look, we are down to 5 campuses that have some sort of federal accountability tied to them right now. We do have one more that we're not sure exactly where they're going to land in things, so we probably will be adding a 6th one to this list. But we've already started the meetings with Region 14. They're our guide to help us through the federal accountability steps. There are a lot of planning pieces that we need to do for this. There'll be a lot of documentation. This piece is changing this year. In the past, it's been probably a little bit of you kind of write the paperwork, you fill in the paperwork, you submit the paperwork, and you're done. TEA is becoming a little more hands-on in this area where they will be checking paperwork and they will be more involved and be on site a little bit more than they've been in the past. So the campuses that we have involved in the federal accountability will have a little more intervention coming even from TEA checking and watching on what's happening there. So, questions?
Seems like middle school math is one of the big areas of concern. I know we've changed the RLA curriculum for middle school recently. What's the status of math curriculum? Are we doing what we've always done? Are there changes?
This year we're using the same curriculum this year. Okay, that's what we are in the process though. That, like I said, the question I have asked my staff is, what did we do that helped us get ready to do a new RLA curriculum? Because there was a lot of learning that happened last year as far as what does good RLA instruction look like. what kinds of things should be happening in your classroom, no matter what curriculum you're using. It's just solid instruction. Those same kind of conversations need to be happening with math. We have a new middle school math content consultant on board this year, and pretty much what he's been told is middle school is your area. 6 through 12 is really his area of concern or area of responsibilities, but we have told him that 6, 7, and 8 is really where we need your time focused right now. We have some strengths, we have some strong people at the high schools that we can lean into. Lindsay and I've even talked to Lindsay Williamson. She and I both are math people. So if we needed to kick in and help with some things at the high school, we could kind of cover some of the high school things. But really asking Michael to get focused on those grades 6 through 8, to be in those classrooms, working with those teachers, looking for a different curriculum, because what we have apparently is not getting it done.
Sorry, more
Okay.
questions. I know, like, the kids doing 8th grade honors or algebra, they take the algebra EOC, correct? Is that same true for those in 7th grade honors? Do they take actually the 8th grade EOC?
This is part of, when you look at the 7th grade math data, that's part of what you're seeing, that we had such significant drop, because what happened is we lost the kids, the algebra kids, those that they usually took a 7th grade advanced class. Well, the way it works now, that 7th grade advanced class is actually teaching 8th grade TEKS, so that's what they're tested on. I did say that right, Lindsay? Where'd you go? Yes. Okay. Make sure I got all the little nuances straight in my head. So they're taking the 8th grade. So we took the top 7th graders out of the 7th grade scores is what happened. So those top 7th graders actually figured into an 8th grade test.
Just trying to find a little silver lining there.
I know. And that is one of the things that did happen to us. But, you know, all of us, we look at it, we saw these numbers, and it's like, even if we have that excuse, this is not acceptable. I mean, it's just not.
So if I could ask you, I guess, to contextualize a little bit, because there's been, there's been good news on some of these slides, and then there's been some challenging news in looking at the scores. We know that 11 of our campuses saw an improved accountability rating. We know that, especially at the meets and masters, we aren't where we want to be. But how are we getting improved accountability results at 11 of our campuses if our scores aren't where they need to be? And I guess my question is, how's the state doing? Because when you see masters and it's 20%, well, that's bad unless the state is also 24%, right? So can you contextualize just a little bit how we're doing compared to a measuring stick of some kind?
If you remember some of the data that I've shared with you in the past, so I didn't put it back in this presentation, we have some areas where we are beating or competing with the state, and we did increase the number of areas this year that we are beating or competing with the state. But for the most part, we are still not where the rest of the state is when we look at these areas. If I remember off the top of my head, I think we have 7 areas when you look at everything. And I mean like 3 through 12, meets, masters, approaches. We have 6 or 7 areas that we actually are ahead of the state. So we still have some work to do. How is our rating? Well, one of the big pieces that happens in the accountability system is growth. And so we have growth going with our kids. And a kid can show growth, a year's growth, and still not meet approaches, meets, or masters. So they can show a lot of growth, but still not pass the STAR test. And so when you figure our growth piece in, that's what's really helping our accountabilities numbers to show.
And I want to piggyback off that. That's a really, really important point about how the system works. You've got school districts in the state of Texas who serve very different types of students, right? And so there are school districts that their A through F rating is largely driven by absolute performance. 90-something% of their kids are passing all the tests, right? in other areas in the state of Texas where school districts may serve more challenging students, then the way the system is built in order to not just condemn those schools to, always getting D's and F's is exactly what Patty just said. You get credit for your students when they move up by a year or more worth of growth. And so really for Abilene ISD, coming from where we're starting at, growth is what we're really banking on, and that's why we've made some of the aggressive moves. Can you talk to the board just real quick about some of the specific things we've done in terms of restructuring our elementaries? You've already mentioned switching the curriculums in some areas, how we're doing our instructional coaching. We've made a lot of aggressive moves, and I just want you to mention some of those specifically for the board.
Okay. You mentioned the instructional coaches. Remember at the elementary level, we have reorganized ourselves into circles. And so what was happening prior to this year is every elementary campus had its own instructional coordinator. And that instructional coordinator was supposed to be the master of all things. They were supposed to know everything about the math, the reading, the science, the social studies, the GT, the RTI, the MTSS, all of these different things. So when you look at the depth that our teachers are trying to teach in each of these content areas, it was really hard for one person to be the person that knew all things. And so we've reorganized that each circle has specialists. So we have a reading specialist, we have a math specialist, we have a science social studies specialist, and then we have somebody that really specializes in looking at the data, using the data, organizing some of our special programs and those sorts of things to help our students. And so now the coaches get to have more depth and get to spend more time with teachers going into depth to help them. I didn't know if you were fixing to talk. Okay. Then another big thing that, like I mentioned to you earlier, that we have been specific with Michael about, we need to focus on 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. We know you're secondary math coordinator, but really right now our need is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. We've had some conversations about really needing to support those teachers in the middle grades with the math, them knowing the depth of it, and then knowing how to turn around and help get, okay, y'all all know middle school children, so middle school children to pay attention and learn math to the level that the state is asking us to do that. If you remember, we've got the grants in place with the RLA, so it's not just that we handed them a new curriculum this year, but we've got 2 PLC coaches that we were able to use grant funds to pay for those positions to really help be on campuses and to help drive the conversations. Internalization is a big word that we use now. So really helping teachers look at, here's what I'm supposed to teach. What is it really going to look like when I put it into play into a classroom? So we're having those conversations. PLCs, we started those last year, and we have dug deeper into that process to help teachers really look at what they are supposed to be teaching. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Go ahead.
No, that's good. I just wanted to say, Patty and I, you can tell by looking at us, we've been in the school business for a long time. And I want to say that it's really, really important to me to always understand that when you talk about school performance, it's not this black and white thing that either everything's roses or the sky is falling. It's always a work in progress, no matter how good we get or no matter how low things are that we're starting at. And so when you see this data, there's slides where you feel good, and then there's slides where you're like, oh my goodness, and that's real. That's really what we deal with, right? And so our job is to constantly improve as a school district, and that won't ever not be our job, right? But it's always been extremely important to me to be completely honest about how we're doing, and that works in 2 ways. Number one, I never want to be a salesman as a superintendent. I never want to be the guy who just shows you the good data and hides anything that's challenging. That is not who I am, because that's not how you fix things. You fix things by looking at things the way they are. But I want y'all to understand, too, there's a flip side to that. And critics of schools tend to fixate on the negative data, and they shine a spotlight on every mole and wart that you have as a school district. Well, that's also not fair, and that's not right, and it's not honest, and it's not accurate, and it's not true. And so it's really important to me, as just from a moral standpoint, to be honest about our schools. I love fixing schools, and I love the team that we have in Abilene ISD and the way we roll up our sleeves, and we don't dodge the challenges. We tackle the challenges, and we make things happen. And we've already seen that. You guys know, Building Brighter Futures with our elementaries, we did some really bold things. And what the public is not seeing behind the scenes is that we're working towards Building Brighter Futures 2.0, tackling our middle schools, because we see that the data at our middle schools is not where it needs to be. Craig Middle School was a B. We're super happy about that. We have 3 other middle schools that were Ds. Those are facts. And these are my schools with my name on them as superintendent, so that can't be where we end up. It's where we are right now. I just want to make sure we contextualize this whole deal, that, yeah, there's challenges. There's also big victories, and I don't want those victories to get lost. Emmy Seibert was behind that poll a minute ago. I don't know if she's still there, but Abilene High School as an 86 and Adams High School as a 94. Those are the 2 highest rated high schools in this whole area. Abilene High School, by grade, by A through F rating, outperform schools that most people would assume would outperform Abilene High, right? And that's not to take anything away from Cooper, because Cooper is this close to a B as well. So I just don't, as we talk about data and we look at things and we're like, yeah, seventh grade math, we got a lot of work to do. And that is real and that is true. And we're not dodging it. We're trying to figure it out, right? But I don't want the good news to get lost in the angst over the things that we've got to fix. We can worry and fret about those things that we need to fix while also celebrating the massive, massive victories and the progress. We had 1A and 1B, and now we have 1A and 6 Bs. And next year it's going to be more. So I don't want you as a board to get your head down, and I don't want, people online watching grabbing the negative snippets and saying, look how terrible things are in AISD, because things are great in AISD, and they're only getting better. Are we perfect? Nope. We're not ever going to be perfect, but we're pretty dang good and getting better.
I would like to say, again, just recognizing the gaps that were closed in a lot of our schools and districts, and where that was part of, you guys helped establish our board, set our board goals, and we look forward to the growth when we get the data for the growth progress and all of that to come, because that's important to us, because they're our goals and that's what we've set out there to accomplish. But seeing this information brought to us this way, it's good this is what we want. We want to see where we didn't succeed, and we want to see where we did succeed. And seeing those numbers it's a little discouraging, but it's in the past, so we know what's trying to be done in the future.
And I would remind y'all, just like we were talking about a minute ago, the progress piece. For us to have the ratings we have, our kids are making progress. So it's not like we're trending the wrong way necessarily. Our kids are progressing. So we've got the ball rolling the right way. We just have to keep the momentum going forward.
Well, I also want to say what you were saying, we're anticipating continued improvement, but I don't want that to be the all in all, because I think the reason why is because we have team members who are in for this for the right reasons, and that's to improve student achievement, not necessarily our ranking. In the process, I think our ranking will benefit. So that's another thing. I think we have a great level of teaching going on, and an understanding of what it takes to improve students' achievements, and that has to be all across the district, or these things wouldn't be happening.
Yes, ma'am.
I also just want to underscore, and I think it's been said, but I really want to double down on it. The improvement areas are not happening because of accident. And so as we think about where we're at versus where we're going, we know where we're going. We opened with the presentation talking about our North Star goal. We are making significant progress, meaningful strides. And so again, we're all saying the same thing, but I want to make sure that the community and those in the masses understand that there is a method to this, and you don't just wake up and guess your way into success. You have to show up, you have to be consistent, and you have to have accountability. That's what we're doing, and we're putting our investment in the areas where we're having that progress. So to the end that we continue to make those investments, that is a factor of how much we can lean into that. And so we're getting there. Good work. Kudos to you. Kudos to the team.
Thank you.
This is the fun part to talk about. I just love all this, that to where we can see with our own eyes what y'all are making
And I
happen
will
out
tell
there.
y'all that Jay has put together the quality seats analysis that goes with our system of great schools, and that will be coming to you in October. And there's a lot more data that we'll be digging into through that process. Some maps data, some different things like that, so you can start to see how some of these pieces fit together a little bit more.
Fantastic. Well, don't go anywhere. I think, unless we have any more questions for Ms. Blue. Do we have Carrie, Ms. Thompson coming? Thornburg.
Thornburg and Lindsay.
Ms.
They're
Carrie
joining.
Thornburg is joining. She is our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And Ms. Lindsay Williamson is making her way up as well, Executive Director of Secondary Education.
Good evening. So we are the elementary and secondary team for you right here. We're going to talk a little bit about our gifted and talented services, an overview for you. Patty's going to help us out at 1.2. So we just want to give you some basics of the program and then some spotlights that we think are important for you to know at each level, some things that we're doing. So as a reminder, our district serves gifted and talented GT students in kindergarten through grade 12. We do that in different ways at different levels, which we'll get into in a minute. And our program is based on the Texas State Plan. And so an excerpt of that is up there on the slide, but what's in bold is that we try to make sure that the students have programming that helps them demonstrate just advanced skills that help them with innovative products and performances that are advanced compared to their peers. And that's in a variety of ways, in core content areas and also in other activities as well. So identification and referral goes on throughout the year at different times. So all of our kindergarten and first grade students are screened and then also tested if they pass through the screening each year. Also in grades 2 through 12, if you're new to the district or if you get referred, then we have a process for that as well. And then if a student comes into our district with a GT certification, we honor that as well. We use a combination of testing pieces, which are both qualitative and quantitative, to get a really good picture of the student and their abilities. That includes standardized achievement tests and also observations, checklists, that kind of thing. Any questions so far about identification? If not, we're going to dive into what it looks like at each level then. Okay, so at the elementary, GT program is campus-based and classroom-based. So we try to meet the needs of the students throughout the day, all day long in areas of math, RLA, science, social studies. And then at each campus, they also have the flexibility to add supplemental activities and services, which could be research-based projects, could be additional time with activities such as STEM and makerspace, could also be additional field trips. We let that flexibility happen on the campus with our support. GT students are also encouraged to participate in UIL academic activities. And then at the elementary level, new this year, like Patty was talking about, each campus is also supported by an instructional coach who also tries to help the teachers with advanced learner support, helping them plan for it, helping them think of different activities to go beyond just what they're learning in math for today. How can we extend that learning? Whatever we're doing in science or in makerspace, how can we tie some next level or research-based things to that? So we're really glad to have that extra layer at the elementary level to help the classroom teachers, because they're the ones that have the students for most of the day, every day. We want the differentiation to happen throughout the day. Wrong way. Middle school.
Good evening. At the middle and high school levels, our GT students are largely served through our honors and AP program. At the middle school level specifically, we have honors classes in English, math, science, social studies, and art. That's 6 through 8 for the 4 core areas, and then we have the honors art 1 for that 8th graders are able to take, and that is also actually a high school credit course, so it sets those students up to be able to go into high school and continue in those advanced honor AP and honors art classes at high school. Gets them a head start. This year specifically is the first year that we have offered honors courses for 6 through 8 in social studies. So last year we had it in 8th grade, and we've extended that to 6th and 7th. And we had a lot of families who were really excited about that. We also, at the middle school level, of course, encourage those students to participate in UIL academics. At the high school level, we have the honors courses, and then we add the AP courses as well. That's a list of all of the areas. You'll see that we really are able to offer a large range of student courses based on our student interests, and really, gifted students are gifted in different areas. So whether it's technology, science, STEM, English, writing, art, we have a wide array of classes that we offer at the high school level as well that go into the AP courses where students can possibly get college credits.
Are all the AP and honor teachers certified GT teachers also?
Yes, they are. Yes, and we'll get into that in just a bit, but yes, sir, they are.
So back to elementary, so every campus can decide how to do their GT kids. I mean, like, I know some campuses have a GT person there, and they pull them out. No.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that as a spotlight in just a minute.
Okay.
So every campus across the elementary level has teachers that have the GT training, the required 30-hour certification training, to be able to provide that in-classroom differentiated instruction for the kids throughout the day, for the students throughout the day. And then we go back to that one slide. Yeah, that one right there. And then at the campus level, on top of that, they have principals and staff have the autonomy, so to speak, to choose how else they want to meet the needs of their GT beyond what we're doing all day, every day. If there are extra resources or extra opportunities that they want to put in place, then they can do that as well. And sometimes they're, with a campus that might only have 15 GT students across all 6th grade levels compared to a campus that might have 100, that would look different, and their resources might be different too. And so that's that supplemental piece we really want to give campuses flexibility on to meet the needs of what they're seeing that their students and their teachers want for that. So I can take that and move it into a spotlight, which might help this question too. Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to make you jump.
You're fine. I was ready to talk about this. Okay. So this is an exact example of how a campus can have flexibility in choice. So Taylor Elementary is a campus that has a high number of gifted and talented students, over 100 of their students over there. And so they also have access to federal funds from being a Title I campus, like all of our elementary campuses are. And so the choice that they have made to use with some of their federal funds is to have a teacher, and it's Jennifer Crisp, to be what's labeled an acceleration and enrichment teacher. And so half of her day, or a good portion of her day, she's running the Makerspace Lab so that all students get those hands-on STEM activity experiences and opportunities. The other part of her day, she's using time to do GT pull-out. And so students at the different grade levels get to once a week have time with her to where they're doing additional makerspace or additional research activities. She also does lessons on the higher thinking skills with depth and complexity. So that's how they've chosen to fund that. is by using some of their federal funds for it. And they have the need because of the number of the population of the kids over there. Does that
seems
answer the
like-
question?
Absolutely. The discrepancy in the number of kids makes good sense.
It makes a difference.
The question this is obviously going to help towards rising the numbers. I mean, continued in the quality of our kids that meet expectations or meet the test of, what we were talking about earlier, raising that percentage.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why, especially at elementary, and then you see it because of through honors and AP courses in secondary, we can't think of the GT student as just being able to go do something GT for an hour once a week. They have to have those advanced and differentiated opportunities and activities all day with their general classroom teacher too. Because that once a week is a lot of fun, and they get a lot of really high-level thinking activities and skills that they get to do, like here at Taylor. But the rest of the week, they also need those opportunities too. And so we really try to work with the teachers on how do you do that? How do you use your instructional coaches to help you plan for that? And so Lindsay's going to talk about that in a minute. Good?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. At the elementary level, just a little spotlight. It kind of to lead into this, if you didn't know, our middle schools this year moved to an 8-period day. And that allowed for them to really think outside the box and to add multiple electives that would be of interest to lots of different kids. And one of those additions they made was robotics. Up until this year, we've only had robotics in 8th grade at our middle schools. And with that added period, they had the flexibility to extend robotics into 6th grade. So now at all 4 of our middle schools, we have robotics 6th through 8th grade. While it's not specifically geared to our GT kids, robotics very much in a lot of ways is still geared to them. It's open enrollment, but in those classes, always problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, merging math and science and robotic, all of the things go into that. They talk, leadership, collaboration, but then you can even look at the teaching minute tonight that they did, and that was Mann's theater class. And because they went to 8th period days, we have more students have an opportunity to be in classes theater. And you heard that the same verbiage in what she's doing in her theater class, creativity, problem solving. So our middle schools are really trying to integrate that into all of our electives, not just our core academics. And you could see that there, and then we're seeing it in robotics along with some other electives that have been added this year. Our highlight for our high schools, we can just look straight at AP and see how our students are performing on AP exams compared to students in Texas and beyond. And these are the areas where there's give or take about 20 tests that we offer each year at the high schools, depending on what classes make from year to year, depending on what campuses are able to offer certain AP classes. But we had all of these 7 areas where our students in our district outperformed the students in the state of Texas, and that's the percentage of students that made a 3 or higher. And what's encouraging to me there is you're not looking at just a list of art or just a list of English, but we've got science, math, art, English, all there where we see some really positive results we're getting from our high school kids in the AP world. Any questions before we go on to the next section?
I guess I've never considered AP and honors really a GT program, but they still do get GT stuff separate from the AP, or is that?
It's all tied into their curriculum. So it's meant to be a curriculum where the offering is at a higher level. And it's considered, we have open enrollment in our district, but
Right.
we encourage our GT students to take advantage of those classes. Is that what?
So, yeah, I guess so non-GT students that are AP students get the same thing that those that are gifted and talented get?
Yes, they do. Yes, sir. Because we do have the open enrollment, and not all districts have that. Some districts set a criteria for students to have to meet to get into AP courses, but we're just we've always operated, if a student wants to work hard enough and they have the motivation and drive to do it, then we allow them to take those courses. Anything else? Okay. As far as teacher requirements for GT teachers, that all teachers that are going to teach GT, which includes our honors and AP teachers, are required to take 30 hours of initial professional development. Typically that's done through Region 14 through 5 courses, and they're listed there on the screen. And then after their initial year of training, then they are required to get 6 hours, a 6-hour update each year, and there's some flexibility on where those are taken depending on the grade level that they're on. Typically Region 14 offers those along with AP College Board. Teacher support we have at the campus level, our instructional coaches and instructional facilitators, which Carrie already talked about a little bit. I think this really can kind of blend into the previous conversation that we had with the academic report that Patty provided, in that the PLC process is important for all students. When we're talking about student growth, we're not just looking at student growth from our struggling students, we're looking at it at all levels, and that comes into play in the PLC process when they're looking at individual student data and what we can do in the classrooms to push those students. At the district level, we have our content coordinators and our curriculum documents and materials that we're constantly updating. And then for professional development, like I said, we have Region 14, and our AP teachers always take advantage of the AP College Board summer institutes that are provided.
They give me the fun part. So, you know, over the past year, especially being part of your part of the district, the funding piece is a critical piece that we do have to consider when we're looking at any of our programs. So I just wanted to give you kind of a quick overview of how the funding for GT works. First of all, we were talking about numbers. So here's an overview for you of our numbers. This was pulled the last week of August. And you can see how many were on campus, total enrollment, how many identified GT students, and then the percentage of the campus. So how does the funding work? And you'll see why that percentage was kind of something you needed to know when we have this conversation. GT is what they call a weighted funding allotment. Basically, that means we take the basic allotment that we get for every kid, and you multiply that by a multiplier, which for GT, it's 0.07. It's also a capped allotment, which means we only get funding for up to 5% of our average daily attendance. And we have to spend 100% of this allotment every year on GT assessment or programming. So, trying to put this all in context a little bit, let's say our ADA was $13,330, and I did not randomly pull that number. It came out of some of Jen's budget book information. So if you take $13,330 and you multiply times the 5% cap, that means 666.5 students is what we are eligible to receive GT funding for, if we had that many kids. So when you look, the basic allotment is $6,215. You take that and you multiply it by that multiplier, that 0.07. That means we get an additional $435.05 per GT child. But remember, that's capped. So we take the $435.05, the 666.5, multiply that, and our total GT allotment for a year is $289,960.83. The state has funded us for 5%. Remember what our percents are. Okay? So you kind of looking at that, we don't get really $400 a kid, we get more like $200 a kid, a GT child. So just kind of looking a little bit, these are our numbers. Again, I pulled this from information that Jen had for you, that you can kind of look where we have been. Our ADA for 24-25 at GT was 1,429 students. We received funding for 630 students. So how did we spend that allotment? 279,000, and yes, this number is a little off. By the time you get to the final way TEA figures, everything else, the numbers don't always match exactly what we think they're going to, but we're fairly close here. So of the $300,000, $279,000 and a little more was spent on salaries and benefits. We spent $4,600 with Pearson. That's part of the testing we have to purchase when we're identifying students. Renzulli is an online learning system that our GT people they've chose to use that for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. That program's $15 per student. Riverside is another testing piece that we have to have for identification. And then they chose to spend some money on a book study, so it was to PA Publishing for $700, and that's the grand total of our GT allotment and how it was spent. So, questions?
So once you're identified as GT, you're GT for life then, through 12th grade? So regardless if they take honor or AP classes, they're still counted somewhere in that number?
Yes, sir.
A student can go on what's called furlough by request of teachers or parents, but mainly that's if the student is really struggling, you know, can no longer keep up, or for some other reason needs to take a step back. But once you're identified, you continue with that identification.
So even a kid that's not identified but takes an AP, an honors course, they don't count to that number?
They don't count.
Okay, they don't.
No, they do not count towards our GT funding. They have to have been formally identified as GT to receive this extra allotment.
And the last chance they have to be identified is 11th grade?
Carrie, you might know this. We used to do a pull-out program where the Alps kids went to a campus, and why did we stop doing it that way?
So that's been, I have a timeline of you know, what we've done with our GT program throughout the, I don't know, 30 plus years probably, that I can send to you. But we no longer did that program quite a while ago, and that's when I was still in the classroom. I think that it
was at least
so that's a long time ago.
2005 at least.
And so one of the reasons why that's not something that we choose now might be because of what Patty's showing on budgeting, but I'm not sure about that piece of it. But that the state is requiring us to meet the needs of students all day, every day in the classroom is also just one piece of that. But we haven't done the ALPS program in quite a long time.
I guess I need to go sit in on a class at some point, but it seems like that was pretty effective back then, from my personal experience.
Well, and I would say it's one of those things too that depends on how you're going to measure effectiveness. Because like I said, we now have this meets and master standard, which is going to come out in RLA and it's going to come in math. So in those content areas is where we really need to be pushing these kids in particular. And so when we pull them out and we don't address their needs in those content classes, we're not getting them pushed as far as we need them to be pushed in the core content classes. What was happening is when you pull them out, because ALPS was around when I was here the first time, when you pull them out, they're not focusing during that pull-out time on those core content skills at that moment to be pushing themselves. What tended to happen is you got pulled out to do these projects and all those things, and they were great as far as pushing your thinking and all of those sorts of things, but it was more of an isolated area of skills that was being used and not the core content area, specific areas that we were needing to emphasize.
And that's what the state plan is expecting us to do, is meet them in all those areas. And so,
And I will say, a piece of this that we do have to consider is funding. Because if we're going to do pull-out like that, then those are additional personnel slots that we don't have at this time. So those would be salaries that we would be adding to campuses. And if you notice, you know, we've got them all the way up and down. So we've got 200 kids at Abilene High that if we were going to do some sort of pull-out for them, then that's additional slots we would have to hire. The other thing that happens, especially when you get to high school, is the graduation requirements and those sort of things make it very difficult to find the moment to do some kind of separate GT for them. So there is a funding component to it as well.
I guess in the past with my kids' experience, we had an administrator that told my wife and I that your kids are smart, you don't need to worry about it. And I don't want to see that attitude continued, because the GT kids, if we push them, you know, we may have one that cures cancer or something like that, and I just want to make sure that they're getting
and
as good an
that's our
opportunity.
goal, and that especially by putting the coach in that role specifically, because I mean, if you look at numbers, we could have named that other coaching role a lot of different things. You know, we've got 21% SPED right now. We've got 10% emergent bilingual, but we chose GT to be the area of focus that we gave that coach to spend time with teachers to make sure that even our GT kids are growing. And this goes back to the conversation we were having about growth, because it's not just about passing. Our kids have to be growing, and every kid has to be growing. And the way our accountability system works, there are even mechanisms in place that if a kid once they reach meets, if they don't get on to masters, we're not going to get credit. We're going to get hurt. Or if they're masters and we don't maintain masters, we get hurt in our accountability system. So there are pieces built into our state accountability system that encourage us to do what we're doing with GT, that we want to keep encouraging and pushing these kids in those core content areas to higher and higher mastery levels of those. And that's why also trying to work with them, though, to find those opportunities to do some of those other cool things. Part of what GT is we're supposed to educate the kids with their peers and with their, what's the word? I can't remember exact wording. But basically what they want is the GT kids are supposed to have time where they're with some other GT kids, but then they're supposed to have time when they're with just general population.
Okay.
I feel like this also attracts certain families to a district when you have high level of instruction going on for that type of a kid. We all know that the other things are in place because they are getting all the spotlights, but I know families that would probably, DICE families, all those types moving in, would choose a district that highlights this type of education too.
Well, we definitely kind of, you know, tying together some of these conversations. That's why when we look at our meets and masters numbers, those are just as important to us to be looking at those broaches numbers. It's not just about passing the test. You know, what is better for kids is meets and masters. And so that's what we're going to keep pushing, that we want kids meeting and masters, because that tells us they're really ready for what's beyond.
Do you know what any other districts do as far as high school?
Mostly what we're doing.
AP classes?
Mm-hmm. Most of your high secondary schools, it's your honors and your AP classes is how they're meeting the needs of their GT kids.
Okay. I guess I'll visit with you some more on that, but.
Okay, be happy to.
It seems like, to me, you're taking a more advanced class and maybe not getting the GT part of that if you're doing the AP. It's, you know, a college level class or something, but.
Well, and that's where another thing that I have seen happen is a lot of times if you're in the AP program and you start requiring some extra things for the GT, because the AP is pretty scripted as far as these are the things that have to happen. And so to do a GT component, you're kind of adding on top of it, and that's when you will have parents furlough their kids out of GT at high school, so they avoid that. Because the AP classes are so rigorous to start with, they don't want anything additional put in there. And we don't have a whole lot of control over what is being taught in the AP classes. College Board pretty much says this is what you teach.
I think as we think about curriculum and our accountability scores, it's easy to think about the students at the low end, you know, who are struggling. So I think this is just a good reminder that we have just as much obligation to our high-performing students to serve them well, to push them well. Like you said, these are the families we want to recruit to our district. I mean, I do look at my kids' own experience in high school, and their AP experience has been pretty incredible. I think we offer probably more AP classes than any other district in our area, and so I think that's part of our story we need to continue to tell really well. And I will say, yeah, my kids' AP was all they needed. They probably didn't need anything or want anything additional to that, but I think those classes, especially when my kids are in college now, really prepared them well to succeed in college. And so, like I said, I think this is just a good reminder to, we need to bring our students who are struggling up, but we also need to challenge our high-achieving students as well.
It's pretty incredible to see some of the AP and dual credit loads some of our high school kids are carrying. They are, I'm pretty amazed. And then I see them play football on a Friday night. So they're using every minute of their AP.
My
I think
question,
that's one thing we have to be careful of is those kids are usually our highest achieving but are most involved. So if we start stacking more into that because they're GT kids, we're gonna lose them altogether. They're gonna say, I'll just take the on-level classes. Like I have to sleep at night. I want to do well in my activities. So we have to kind of protect their time on that and balance that out for them some, or we'll just lose them altogether. And they need to be in those classes. So that's something we have to think about as well.
introducing the honors class at 6th grade, have we had time to see how that's encouraging kids that might not have ever considered taking honors classes by the time they get to 8th grade? Maybe middle school teachers have told them you need to be in this class, and by the time they get to 8th grade, they're actually thinking about enrolling in an AP, you know, or the pre-AP, whatever we call them, the honors classes, and hopefully that will help encourage them to say, I will take that honors class, instead of saying, no one else has ever done that, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, and at our elementary campuses, our 5th grade teachers are doing a good job with talking with families, you know.
Good.
In February, March is when they start doing those course selections. And if a student is doing well in math in 5th grade, they're automatically slotted for that advanced math class. You know, and so, and the same with opportunity with, you know, honors, RLA and those kind of things. And so the teachers really start talking to those parents, and so do the middle school counselors, about go ahead and put your child in these honors classes at 6th grade. That's a good opportunity. We can always change the schedule if it's too much, you know, but going ahead and trying to get them in early is the approach that elementary and middle school are working with together with that.
Anything else? Thank you, ladies. That is fascinating information. We obviously love hearing it, so thank you.
Thank you all so much.
We are going to, Dr. Jackson, we're going to do item D first. So, hang on. We're going to move on to our efficiency audit with Mr. Jeremy Stevens. Come on up. We know you're waiting, and you're being very kind and patient.
Well, thank you very much.
This is Mr. Jeremy Stevens from Ide Bailey.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yeah, sorry
Okay.
about that, Jordan. Audible.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, my name's Jeremy Stevens. I'm with Ide Bailey, and our firm has completed the efficiency audit for the district. As you know, the district is planning to go out for a voter-approved tax rate election coming up in November. One of the requirements of that is that the district obtain what's called an efficiency audit prior to taking that to the voters. The efficiency audit, those guidelines are published by the Legislative Budget Board, which kind of just give you a background, kind of at a high level. What that entails is the auditor prepares a group of districts that are identified as your peers. We utilize a tool that TEA publishes where basically it matches up districts by ADA, property valuations, tax rates, and so forth. And it generates a list of potential peer districts, and then we select 10 of those as your peer group. From there, we go to public sites, obtain information from those other districts to create a peer group average, and compare those averages to same information from the district. And then we report the results of those comparisons to you. So that's what we've done. Like I said, we've completed this. Everybody should have a hard copy of that efficiency audit report. I've also got just a couple of slides to go through that kind of cover some of the items or information in there. Beginning with our report, which starts on page number 1 of the bound copy. Again, it identifies that this efficiency audit was conducted by the guidelines prescribed by the State of Texas Legislative Budget Board. And again, at that last paragraph there, reiterates that we're not conducting an audit of the financial statements, so we're not expressing an opinion on the financial statements or the effectiveness of internal controls. We've, like I said, conducted the procedures that were listed by the Legislative Budget Board, and then we're reporting the results of those procedures to you. Following that, the report is divided up into 5 different sections. First section, section 1, is the executive summary. Again, kind of summarize some key information on the slide, but again, indicates it was performed according to the guidelines of the State of Texas Legislative Budget Board. Again, because your M&O tax rate that you're proposing is above the rate that requires a voter-approved tax rate election. So therefore, you're having this efficiency audit conducted. It then lists out some of the sources of the information that we utilized. Primarily what we're utilizing is published PEMS data information. Use the 5-year history for your district and all the other peer districts in the peer group from 2020 through 2024. And then most recent information for the Texas Academic Performance Reports, the FIRST ratings, and the accountability ratings. On page number 3 is section 2, which is the summary of results. Provides kind of just a basic overview of some of the information that we located. Also there in the middle of the page, if you're interested in which specific school districts made up the peer group, those are listed there individually. But per our results, the M&O tax rates of the district for the previous fiscal year was 0.6890, which was less than the peer group average of 0.7522. Looking ahead to this upcoming tax rates that are proposed, the district is proposing a M&O tax rate of 0.7421 compared to the peer group proposed tax rate average of 0.7164. At the bottom of the page there on page 3, it gives a little chart that shows what the impact of the VADR will be per each average taxable homestead within the district. The average taxable value of each homestead in the district is a little under $58,000. If the VADR were to pass, the taxes paid per each homestead would increase by approximately $35. As far as accountability ratings, pretty comparable to peers. The district's comparability or accountability rating was 72 compared to the peer district average of 75. The district earned a superior first rating for its most recent information. And then as far as operating expenses of the district, you'll see that the district's average operating expenses per district were approximately $12,144 compared to a peer district average of $12,071 and a state average of $12,944. So pretty in line with the peer district average. State average expenditures were a little bit under that. The other sections in the report I'm not going to spend too much time on. Section 3 is objectives and approach. Basically, it lists out the specific procedures and data that we looked at in accordance with the guidelines from the Legislative Board. And then Section 4, which starts on page number 9, is the district data on accountability, student staffing, financing, and peer and state comparisons. This particular section of the report details out all of the district information compared to the district averages or peer district averages, and then the state average as well. Again, I'm not going to go into each of those items individually. Just a couple of items that may be of interest to you. On page number 14, for district revenue, you'll see that district revenue per student for the district was approximately $12,512. If you compare that to peer district average was $12,155, and the state average was $13,037. So your district was a little bit above peer district average, but a little bit below state average in total. But the thing that you might point out or be of interest to you, if you look at the individual categories, local, state, and federal, you'll note that your district's local revenues, your tax revenues, are considerably lower than both peer district average and state average. You're about $1,000 per student below on each of those. And then that's offset, you have higher federal revenues. Your district has a higher proportion of economically disadvantaged children, which generally results in larger federal revenues. But keep in mind, those federal revenues, they're restricted to purpose. So they are there to feed kids for certain special education programs and so forth. Your tax revenues are going to be unrestricted. So you're behind other districts for unrestricted, but then your restricted revenues are a little bit higher. And second item that I was going to touch on is on page 17. And this relates to the unassigned fund balance of the district. TEA recommends that a school district maintain a reserve of approximately 3 times your average monthly general fund expenditures. One of the requirements of the efficiency audit was to kind of look at a 5-year history of that to see how the district was performing in regard to that 3-month reserve in comparison to its peer district averages. That chart at the bottom there, you'll see there's a couple of columns for the district, and then there's a couple of columns for your peer district average. I'll speak to the percentage column, which is columns 2 and columns 4 on there. And the way those percentages work, anything that's above 100% means that for that year, the district or the peer group, they performed above their unassigned fund balance in the general fund was greater than that 3 times your average monthly general fund expenditures. Any percentage less than 100%, you're below that 3 times. And the thing to note here, I think for y'all, if you look at the peer district average over the 5-year history, it averaged about 95%. Your district did fall behind that a little bit. The average over the last 5 years was 87%. But if you look at the individual years for that, you'll note that that is largely driven by that 1920 year, so 5 years ago, had a 61% of that unassigned fund balance reserve in there. But if you look at the trend for your district, you've grown it over the last 5 years. So at most recent data of 23-24, you're up to 93%. So you're kind of right in line with the other districts in the peer group. So just kind of giving you kudos for that, for growing that unassigned fund balance up over that 5-year period. There's some other data in there with some explanations for some variances, but those were the 2 items that I thought would be most important for y'all. But the other last section of the report is on section 5, and it starts on page number 21. I'm not going to go into detail on it, but that particular section is additional financial, operational, and academic information. It provides some insights on how the district performs its budget process, how you perform your compensation adjustments, future planning, and so forth. But again, not going to go into detail on that as well. So like I said, that was what we performed for you. Like I said, we're not expressing an opinion. We performed the procedures, did the comparisons, and then we've presented a report to you. So any questions?
I do.
Okay.
On this peer, thank you. On the peer group list, there are some names that I'm familiar, I'm familiar with all of them, but this is a whole different group than we have ever been compared alongside. How is the grouping arrived at?
We used, TEA has a tool on its website where we input your school district, and then it generates a list of districts that have comparable ADA, property values, or tax rates. I think that initial list was about 60 districts. We selected 10, ran by management. They said it was a good list, so that's the district. Those were the districts that we used.
Okay, I just wondered because we have been in groupings with San Angelo and Wichita Falls before because they're relatively close. But I don't believe I've ever seen us on the same list with New Caney, among others. That I just wondered
Right.
how that list of schools was arrived at for.
Branched out into the statewide instead of just local.
Right. There's, I mean, in our West Texas area, there's, we try to pair you up as much as possible. I think we picked everything we could find in West Texas that TEA tool kicked out. But after that, there was only so many options for us, so.
Well, I think one other point is you guys are looking at taxable values and property values, and most of the comparison groups that we're used to seeing, purely academic, looking at percentage of special ed kids, percentage of at-risk kids. Y'all are looking at more the financial side of things.
Correct.
So I just want to highlight a couple of things that I've observed while looking at this, and I recognize that part of the impetus behind this is the Vader, right? And so I think it's certainly important that as taxpayers, there's transparency. I think it's important that if there's going to be a question posted to the public about making additional investments in education, that we're transparent with our data. And I recognize that some in the community, it's easy just to fall back on the crutch of show us your books and be more transparent. And I want to highlight that that's exactly what we've done. And so whenever you look at this and say, hey, what are we doing? It's very clear. The district has earned a superior rating for the school financial integrity rating system in Texas. So we've done that. We've demonstrated stewardship. We've proven that we are doing the best we can with the numbers that we have. And so, again, I think for some who want to challenge it and suggest that we're taking a used car salesman approach, I think it definitely is disingenuous to suggest otherwise when we have revealed our books and we have demonstrated that we're being good stewards before we go back to the citizens.
I want to thank you and Ide Bailey for always doing great work.
All right, well, thank you very much. Hope you all have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience tonight.
No problem. Thank you.
Now, coming our way is Dr. Stephanie Jackson, our Executive Director for Special Education. She'll be speaking with us about our TCASE SPED program audit summary, which is we've been curious about.
Jordan, are you going back to my slides? Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so TCASE is the Texas Council of Administrators for Special Education, and this is a group that we invited in. We actually paid them to come in. We asked them to come in for many reasons, but I just want to kind of go through what all they did. They sent out surveys to staff, to the community, and to parents, to teachers, to students. They got 440 survey responses. They talked to 14 different focus groups. They did 12 one-on-one interviews. They visited 17 campuses, and they also looked at 108 different documents. 15 of those they pulled IEPs of different students just randomly. And then the rest of those documents were things like the special ed policies and procedures.
Can you tell the board what an IEP is?
Oh, I'm sorry. An IEP is an individual education plan. So that is the plan that each special education student has that is individual for them and based on their needs. And there's special things that have to be in each one legally. And so they pulled it to make sure that we're doing it correctly. We asked them to come because I was new to this department in January, and we knew that there were some things that needed to change, but I really felt like an outside opinion would be really the best. Dr. Kuhn and Patty said, let's get an outside opinion to see what all's going on. And I didn't know where to start. I needed somebody to help me just kind of narrow down where's our starting point. They collected a lot of information for me, and they helped me prioritize it, which was wonderful. And another reason, we're 21% special ed. Our district is. And so 21% of our children we're serving in our special ed department. So that's a big chunk of kids. We want to make sure we're doing it right and doing it to the best of our ability. This is just a breakdown of where our kids are served in special education. The majority of them are in resource, so that means that they are pulled out of the general education classroom for some part of the day, not for a full day. If they are pulled out for a full day, that's when they're in self-contained classrooms. At the bottom, it says referrals so far, 36. That was several days ago. I checked right before I came in tonight, and we are at 58. So that is...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you tell the board what mainstreamed and homebound are?
Yes. Mainstreamed is if they're in all general education classes and maybe a special ed support is provided in that classroom, but they never come out of the classroom for any special ed support. It's all done in the general ed classroom. And then homebound is when they have some medical condition, whether it be, it can be a wide variety. There has to be a medical condition that makes it where they cannot attend school, and so we send a teacher to them. We still have 6. We have 2 more that will have ARDS this week that have requested homebound. It has to be a doctor's note. It has to be like the doctor has to sign off on it and let us know why they need the homebound services. And we have 1 full-time homebound teacher, and then we also have a second one that's a temporary homebound teacher. And so we're serving 6 right now. And then we have the 58 referrals. These are all students who are not special ed right now, but they have been referred for one reason or another.
On the homebound, I do have a question. Is some of that, do all those kids have an IEP, or is it a temporary, like a severe injury or a surgery where they can't come for a certain amount of time and then they're back in?
Okay,
and they're a normal student, they're a regular student. Is that something different?
No, special education, my department serves all of the homebound students, and so we do have some general ed homebound students. My temporary homebound teacher is a general ed certified teacher, and so I send her to those classes. If we have a student who is pregnant and has a baby, she has time at home with her baby, and so we have a teacher go in and work with her. We had a young man who had a kidney transplant, general ed student. We had a teacher go in until he was released to come back to school. We have some special education students who have been on homebound for several years. Just because their medical conditions are so severe, they can't come to school in fear that they would get sick, and they can't afford to be sick.
But you don't have to build an IEP for a regular ed student?
No, ma'am. They can be served at home as a general education student.
Okay.
And the way that we do homebound is that we collect work from their teachers, and we take it to them, and they work through it. We have a teacher that goes 4 hours a week, and they work with them. The student is required to do a lot of work on their own, and some of it will be through Google Classroom. And then the homebound teacher collects the work and brings it back to the school, and the school grades it. The regular teachers grade it and input their grades. So some things that they told us that we were doing well. They said our staffing in our self-contained classrooms, teacher to aide ratio, or teachers and aides to student ratio is good. We try to keep that at 1 adult to 4 children. At the beginning of this school year, we got a little bit more than that, and we had to look at our numbers as the dust settled, and we have hired some more aides, and we're in the process of hiring a few more because we had some more children. And so we monitor that very closely. We're also dyslexia teachers to student ratio. We're doing that well. We have to monitor that very closely because we have a lot of children that are being served with dyslexia, and then we have a lot of children that are being tested for dyslexia. So as that number grows, we will, if needed, I will have to request for another teacher. We do have one teacher that is She's able to cover for one that is on maternity leave because she was helping. And so I'm hoping that as our numbers grow and the person on maternity leave comes back, she will have more space to have a group. So we're anticipating students qualifying for dyslexia. We also do not over-identify students in one specific area. So as we test students, if they qualify as a specific learning disability, that's how we code them. Apparently there are places in the state who overqualify children as intellectually disabled or autistic, and we are very evenly spread. We don't have one specific area that we're overqualifying. And we also meet our timelines very consistently. Our diagnosticians and school psychologists do the testing, and I hold them very accountable, but they are they do a very good job of meeting those timelines and testing and having ARDs on time. And then there were we had several areas of growth, and they broke them down for me, and then they said, these are top priority, and then these are things that you need to do before next school year, and then these are things within a couple of years, between now and 2 years, and then these are things in the future. So we'll go through those. The changes that we've accomplished was improved communication between campuses and the SPED department. I tried to over-communicate with principals just so they feel comfortable asking me any question and calling or emailing, and I try to get back within the same day. There are some days that I might email them back later than I want to, but I try to get through all of my emails every single day just because I know they need an answer. We had IEP training from Region 14. It's a 2-day training for all of the special education staff, so not just the teachers. We did all of our assessment teams, so our diagnosticians, our speech pathologists, our dyslexia teachers, everybody who works with special education. They went through this training that is a state training, and so everybody understands what an IEP should look like and what their goals should look like. And then we also reduced the caseloads for our diagnosticians. That was something that TCASE said was really high. And so we balanced the numbers by our school psychologists were not they weren't managing a caseload, so they were testing kids, but they weren't necessarily doing the ARD meetings and following those kids, and so we adjusted that. And then also I was able to hire 3 ARD facilitators, which took some of the additional ARD responsibilities off of the diagnosticians. So
Can you tell everybody what an ARD is?
Yes, I'm sorry. An ARD is an annual review and dismissal meeting. So this is when we meet to go over the students' progress or to go over students' testing to get to be into special education. At these meetings, we have a teacher, a general ed, special ed, parent is invited, the administrator is there, and then anyone who is relevant for the students' needs. So we might have a speech person, dyslexia person, occupational therapist, a physical therapist. Sometimes depending on the students' needs, the meetings can get very, very big. But when it doesn't have to discuss a testing, we can have an ARD facilitator conduct that meeting, and sometimes these meetings last an hour to 2 hours. Sometimes longer. It just depends on what the needs are of the student. We talk about how the student is doing. We talk about their goals, and if anything needs to be adjusted, this is where we do it. So a teacher will write a goal for a student, and then we discuss it as a committee in the ARD meeting. And so if the parent is not comfortable with the goal, or if the committee says that goal is too high or too low, let's talk about it, we go through and talk about it and change it right there. We don't leave the ARD until everything is set the way we want it. So sometimes they take a long time. And when we have a diagnostician who is doing testing on a student that takes a long time and reports take a long time to write, a 2-hour ARD meeting is difficult. So ARD facilitators are trained to run the ARDs. They don't do any of our testing. They just run the ARDs, and so it's helpful. Takes some time off of their hands. These are some other things that we've already accomplished. We're supporting instruction in our resource, in our PALS and ADAPT. Our PALS and ADAPT classes are our self-contained classes. PALS is practical academics, and then our ADAPT classes is more of our medically fragile children. We've hired a content coordinator who is providing that support, and she's staying busy, but she's staying very busy. She goes to all campuses often. We're also monitoring our self-contained classes and the ratio of students to adults. We added one K-PALS class before school started, just based on the number of students that were projected to come from Long. And as our numbers grow, I communicate with Patty and with Ms. Sims, and if we need another class, I ask for more people, and if we can find them, that's great, but sometimes we have to be creative. But we always make sure our kids are being taken care of and taught, and that they're safe. And so if that means adding additional staff to a classroom so they have a good teacher, that's what we do. If we have the opportunity to add a teacher with an aide, that's great. But we're gonna do what's best for kids.
I have a question on that topic. So obviously, 3,000 plus students is a lot of kids, and so I also know that we've been spending a lot of time trying to recruit more special education teachers. But I also know that of the 3,000, they all have varying degrees of need, with some having a significant amount of call out and pull out minutes and others with less so. Is there any consideration given to, I think the number's what, 50 per students per adult? Is that the number on the matrix that we had?
The number on the matrix is 50 to 1.
Okay.
The number that TCASE gives us is a lot less than that.
Sure.
And so that's going to be on my three
Sure.
to plus year
Sure.
plan
Sure.
to get that closer.
Sure.
So,
So to that end, I guess another one of my questions is there any consideration given for the amount of minutes that certain kids need commensurate to the load at that particular school?
yes. And so in an ARD meeting, on their IEP, one of the pages is called Schedule of Services. And so on their Schedule of Services, it breaks it down of how many minutes per week the child needs in each subject. So if they need 120 minutes of pull-out special education service for reading, it will be listed just like that. And so each campus, we have it, especially on our elementary, we have it listed by each student and what their service is needed. I had a schedule in front of me today from Austin, and it was beautiful. But each student is listed and what their schedule of service is, and then we're able to see what is needed. And if everybody needs 120 minutes of reading, it's not the same of a campus that everybody needs 30 minutes of reading. And so that is taken into consideration. That was something that's a huge task. And so that's something that I talked with the principals before school started, and I told them, I need you to look at this and let me know, honestly, do you have the right staff? And if you don't, I need you to show me.
Sure.
And so they have been very good about pulling their minute, like what the kids are needing and what staff they have. And if they feel like they need more staff, why do we need more staff? What is the reasoning? And so I've had some conversations with a couple of principals, and a couple of instructional aides have been approved to hire to help with that.
Well, it's an incredibly hard job, as you know, and it's a constant moving target based upon the students coming in and out. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're also piloting a new curriculum for our PALS classes. We have used the same curriculum for a really long time, and they update it yearly. It's called Unique, but there's other programs out there. Some of them are more expensive, some of them are less expensive. The one that we're piloting is called Teach Town, and we're piloting it in 4 different classes, 1 elementary, 2 middle school, and 1 high school. The reason we chose to pilot this is it has a lot of hands-on activities built in. It is a little bit more expensive. That's not true. It's a lot more expensive, but when I talk to them about what I'm spending right now and that I couldn't go to that extreme, they were willing to work with us significantly if we chose to go with them in the future. So we're piloting, they gave us a free semester to pilot it, and so 4 of our teachers are using it. It's very hands-on, and some of them are enjoying it. Some of them have said it's okay, but it's about the same as Unique. So I wanted them to use it for a semester. They all have access to Unique as well, so if they feel like they need to pull from what we've been using, they can. But, and then we will meet as a team at the end and just get the pros and cons to see what they felt like was good about it and what is not. Changes that we're in the process of making that are not complete. I have several lead positions. I have a lead diagnostician, a lead school psychologist, a lead technology person, a lead transition. When students are in high school and go into our 18+ program, that is a transition, and we have a lead transition person. She deals with all of the helping students go. Actually, when they turn 13, they have to have a transition plan of what they're planning to do after they graduate. But we have programs all the way through high school that are vocational for our special education students, and then we have an 18+ program that the students can stay in until they turn 22. They can start the school year at 21. As long as they're 21 on September 1, they can start with us, and they can stay all year. It has to be appropriate, and they have to have goals set and the goals have to be appropriate for our program. But Casey Smith leads that, and she takes care of all of our transition and makes sure that we stay in compliance. And then we also have a lead speech pathologist and a lead dyslexia teacher. And so as I was evaluating and as TCASE was evaluating, we noticed that some of our leads are doing a whole lot more than some of our other leads, and they all get the same stipend. And so, and I think that's just some people naturally are go-getters, and some people will do what you ask them to do, and that's what they're going to do. And so I'm working on balancing those responsibilities and making sure that everybody's doing what we're asking them to do and what we need them to do, and also making sure that each one of those positions is truly needed, because we don't want to spend money that we don't have to spend. We're working on a uniform way to track the services that students are receiving. This is mainly for our general ed teachers. If they have accommodations like preferential seating, if that is one of their accommodations in their IEP, so they need to sit close to the teacher so that they can have help if they need it. That has to be, the general ed teacher has to document that, and the teacher can document it any way she wants. There's not a uniform way to do that right now in our district. And so if it's never documented, it's hard to show a parent at an ARD meeting that they're getting their accommodations. Mm-hmm. And so we're creating a uniform way so that it'll be easy for general ed teachers, because if they've got 10 special ed kids in their classroom, it's hard to document every accommodation that they're giving. And most teachers are doing everything that we're asking them to do. If we can make it easier for them to just check the box when they do it, I want to make it easier. So we're working on a uniform way to document. And then we're also working on evaluating the placement of students in resource versus inclusion. As you saw, our numbers in resource are very, very high, and our numbers in inclusion are much lower. If the students need to be pulled out, absolutely we want to pull them out. But if we can provide those services in the general ed classroom, I want to provide those services in the classroom. The classroom teacher is the expert in that subject. And so I want to make sure that we are pushing in as much as possible and not pulling them out. If they need it, we're going to pull them out. But I think that it's just been easier to pull them out and work with them in a small group. And I want to do what's best for kids, not what's easiest on paper.
Is there a group, who do you have to work with those teachers that the kids are staying in their classroom?
We have special education teachers and and aides that go
Like
into the
coaches.
classroom.
I mean, no, I mean like, if they're doing a regular ed classroom, second grade, and you have a kid that's in there that has an IEP, but it does not being pulled out.
That needs support in the classroom?
Yeah, do they all have that support in the classroom, or is it sometimes just the regular ed teacher just doing it all?
Sometimes, if they just have accommodations that the regular ed teacher could provide, it's just the regular ed teacher. But if they have like additional special ed support in the general ed classroom, we'll have a special ed teacher or a special ed instructional aide push into the classroom and provide it for them.
And that'll be specified in their individual education plan. It'll be
Yes, sir.
required that we provide that for those
Yes.
kids.
Okay.
And so it
flipping-
says, huh?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it'll say in their schedule of services that it's so many minutes per week of inclusion time. And so that's provided by special education staff. And inclusion means that we're pushing in.
Okay, and then, but flipping it to the other side for the teacher support, for those kids that are left in their classroom, does that come from your department, or does that come from the regular ed coaches? You know what I'm saying?
So like for the accommodations?
For the teacher support of providing those
So
students with the
a lot of it comes from our department, but the coaches help as well. It's a big team effort. We do a lot of PD in the summer together of how you can differentiate for special education students and how you can provide accommodations if that's all that they have and it's not a special ed teacher coming in to help. So we do that in the summertime with PD, and then we go into classrooms and help them if they need it. Because sometimes, especially for new teachers, it's kind of hard to know what to do to meet their needs. And so anytime, if one of the coaches doesn't know how to help them, which most of our coaches are very, very good about knowing all of the different ways to help, but if they need help, they reach out to me and we get them help.
And some of those kids will turn into discipline problems, and so that's just all a matter of just
Right, so we
knowing
want to make
how.
sure we're giving them the supports that they need so that they don't start doing something different.
Right, thanks.
And so our short-term goals between now and 2 years, and several of these we've already started, but we're going to monitor our proportionate share services. Proportionate share funds is money that the federal government gives to us that we have to spend on our private and homeschool students that are special education. We choose to use that money on speech services, and when that money is gone, we don't continue to pay for speech services for those children. So they can keep getting the speech services through their private insurance or parent private pay. And so I want to make sure that we are using that money, and when it's gone, we're communicating to parents that they can continue those services through private pay or their private insurance. And so we're just going to monitor that very closely. I'm going to continue monitoring the dyslexia student to teacher ratio. Dyslexia moved to special ed several years ago, and it just seems that number is growing exponentially. And so I want to make sure that I'm watching that constantly, because we are using a program that has a very specific number of students that can be in a group. And if you have too many in a group, it's just not as effective. And so I want to make sure that we're monitoring it closely. And then also monitoring our resource and inclusion numbers and working towards the appropriate staffing number, which I'll show you in a minute. And it's much lower than what we have right now, but it's just not feasible right now. And so we're working towards it. And then also evaluating our PALS curriculum, and then maximizing our SHARS benefits. This is, our SHARS benefit are our student health and, I just lost it. This is like our speech services, our OT, PT, if they have personal care supplements, so if it's a student that has to have assistance walking, feeding, or diaper changing, we can get federal money reimbursed to us for those cares. I'm losing my words.
Almost like semi-medical.
Yes.
Services.
Those services, yes. And so, but we have to file them correctly, and we have to make sure that we are filing for everything that is billable. There's only certain things that are billable, But as we administer medicine to any special ed kid that has Medicaid, that is a billable service. And so we want to make sure that we are already providing those services, so we want to make sure that we are billing for those services through SHARS so that we are getting reimbursed for all of the things that we are doing. We're already doing them. We just want to make sure that we're getting the funding back for the things that we're doing.
And that's reimbursement from the federal government, not from the parent.
Correct. That's federal government money. That's not from the parent. The parent does have to agree that we do that, and they provide us with a Medicaid number, and they sign off on that in the ARD meeting. And most parents are like, we would love for y'all to get reimbursed for the services that you provide, because all of the services we provide for students at school are free to the parents. So if someone comes in and does counseling or speech therapy or OT or PT, all of that is free to the parents. And so if their Medicaid will reimburse us some for that, it's just helpful for all of the things that we have to pay for. And then our long-term goals, I want to form a parent advisory committee just to improve communication between families and schools. I want to make sure that parents feel like that they have a voice, especially parents with special needs students. A lot of times they can feel like they're being pushed to the back, and they don't understand a lot of things. And so just because a lot of special ed things are difficult to understand, there's a lot of acronyms and there's a lot of laws. And so I want to make sure that we're communicating good with them and there's a place for them to ask questions. I also want to have a full continuum of services, academic and behaviorally. We are doing a very good job with this, but it's hard. And that means that we have every service at every grade level for our students. That's difficult, but we want to make sure that we are doing that for our students. And then TCASE recommends 1 to 16, so 1 adult to 16 students for resource and inclusion at elementary, and 1 to 20 at secondary. What our matrix says is 1 to 50. So this is way different, and we might not ever get to this, but I would like to work to get closer to this, just so it would be more manageable for our teachers. Do y'all have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do want to say that this lady has come in here and really done a bang-up job. She mentioned something about some staff that just do what they have to do, and then some staff that really get after it. And I think since you've been in this position, you have really gotten after it. I think we're working very quickly towards these goals. And I think when we meet all these goals, you're just going to set more goals to work towards. And I really appreciate that. There's, obviously, bringing in TCASE at the beginning, I think was genius to give us direction and a list of things to tackle. And you've just been very eager and willing to just take these things on and move forward. And I appreciate it. I think you're making the department stronger and better every day.
Thank you. And the TCASE idea was Miss Blues. She guided me on that.
A+.
I needed some help, and she guided me well. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we're going to move into, hang on, I got so engrossed. Let's see. To business items, Section 8, business items requiring board action. Dr. Waldron, it's your turn. He's our Deputy Superintendent.
And evidently my joints don't want to work. Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Dr. Kuhn, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. I have two things back to back. They're related to each other. They are a little different. The first one is a plumbing project. Our current board policy states that any project over $50,000 that is construction has to be reviewed by the board for approval. Tonight we're asking you for authorization for the superintendent to execute a contract in order to replace this sewer line that's on the south side of El Corte Elementary. It's approximately 400 feet long and is currently failing, creating quite a situation at El Corte that is truly challenging for the staff, the parents, and we just can't get to this fast enough at this point. Due to the length of the line, we're going to have a contractor do this work. You notice that the blue new line is to the south side of the trees. That's because one of the major impacts to the current sewer line is the trees. Why at almost every building we have, we put trees above sewer lines? I don't know, but in this case, it's a major impact. This sewer line has been problematic for a while. It's always been able to be cleared. Recently, right when school started, we had a camera go in, and there are so many failures in the pipe in hills and valleys that there's really no way to recover this line. There's no way to sleeve it and make it work. The only option is to replace it. It's under $100,000, but it is over your $50,000 threshold to replace.
Is there a motion regarding the replacement of a sewer line at Alcorta Elementary School?
I move to approve delegating authority to the superintendent and his designee to negotiate, finalize, and execute a contract for the replacement of a sewer line at Alcorta Elementary School in an amount not to exceed the statutory competitive procurement threshold.
Thank you. Dr. Tidmore?
I second, yeah.
Okay, Blair Schrader. We'll now take a roll call vote. Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes, Taylor Tidmore.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Silent cheers in the,
Actually, probably audible cheers, especially from the staff at Alcorta. I will publicly tell you that the contractor gives a 3-week timeline in order to do this. One of the implications of this is it goes right across the action that happens in Alcorta in the morning and in the afternoon when they arrive and dismiss. They're going to take that into large consideration. We have a communication plan in place in order to make sure that the campus is well aware of the work happening each day and its progress. The impact to the parts of the sewer line that are currently operational, because some of it is, but most of it is not going to be impacted by the work. So, but it is construction, so it's going to get done as fast as we can get it done.
yes. In close relation, we're going to move on to item 8B, 2, or B, item 8B. Policy CV local, and this will eliminate some of this from happening again.
Correct. In June of last year, the board considered an alteration to CV local. It was actually a multi-meeting discussion. This particular number that's in red encircled was part of what the board wanted. You expressly asked for the threshold for a construction project to come before you to be at $50,000. So if it was above it, we needed to talk to you. That's true also before September 1st of the competitive bid process, which means that if a project like this that we just talked about, before September 1st, if it was over $50,000, we would have put out a bid, advertised it. It would have taken 8 to 12 weeks in order to do the bid process, advertise it, get it back. It would have been a much longer delay. In actuality, the action you took tonight is the fastest route to work being done, which is supposed to be happening at Alcorta on Wednesday in commencement of that sewer line replacement. But the reason why I had to ask you is because there is a threshold in our school board policy currently. Tonight I'm asking for you to move the $50,000, delete the 5 and add a 10 so that it's $100,000. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is likely in update 126 it's going to be one of our options, because the procurement threshold as of September 1st for bidding moved from $50,000 to $100,000. So the project at Alcorta could be done fast. We have other, like without board approval because it's under $100,000. We would inform you through board note, I've done that. There are other projects in our school district right now. There are natural gas lines at Abilene High and Cooper that are hopefully, once we get a quote on them, under $100,000. And after tonight, if they're above 50, we just go and get the repair done immediately. All that still gets communicated by the board. In June, when we talked about this policy, that was very important. So I've kept that top of mind on all these projects. You've gotten information about them. It's always going to be communicated with the board and with the campus. This is just a move that you correlated competitive bidding and informed the board. Those were the same numbers. So I'm asking you to keep them the same. The threshold moved to $100,000, so the informing the board part at a board meeting is, I'm asking you to move it to $100,000. Does that make sense? I really did talk through it a lot. Maybe too much.
It does. I could probably ask and assume, I mean, I could assume, but I guess I could ask too, if this is a reasonable change because of inflation and the type of jobs that used to be 50,000 or below are now 100,000 and below, but they're still the same job.
It's pretty much still the same job. This is, the $50,000 threshold has been around for several decades.
Okay.
And the dollar doesn't spend like it did in 2001.
Great.
Any other questions that I can answer for you in regards to this?
So it's required at 100,000 and above to go to bid.
Yes, sir.
So if it's 100,000 and above, and this is 100,000 and below, shouldn't that be $999 legally? I mean, I'm just.
I actually asked an attorney that question, and the answer was $100,000. So you.
Okay.
It's a great question. I asked it too.
I think this is a great example of how the real world implications of policies like this, going back to the Alcorta situation, which I know is kind of a confluence of a whole lot of weird timing things, but one of the reasons why that has taken so long is because of a policy that hasn't been updated. And so I think that this is prudent. I'm certainly a fan of making sure that there's transparency in bidding process. I think it's important to have accountability, but I also think it's important that we have policies that allow us to serve our kids, our students, and our teachers and our parents well. And so I appreciate the work that y'all have done on this.
Yes, sir.
To keep up with the bidding process, absolutely. All right, well, we'll now, is there a motion regarding policy CV local, as Dr. Waldron has presented to us?
I move to approve revised policy CV local as presented.
I second. We'll now take a roll call vote. Taylor Tedmore?
Yes.
Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Angie Wiley? Yes. Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Blair Schrader?
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Waldron.
Thank you very much.
That input and your tolerance of what you've been through with Alcorta and to Alcorta people. We appreciate your patience.
Probably visit them in the morning.
They may be calling you tonight. All right, let's move on to items 9, covered during business items that have been covered in closed session. First one is 9B1. Is there a motion regarding the sale of Fannin Elementary?
So moved that the board reject all bids received for the sale of Fannin Elementary.
Okay, it's been moved to reject all bids received for the sale of Fannin Elementary by Danny Wheat. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. We'll now take a roll call vote. Angie Wiley, yes. Blair Schrader?
Yes.
Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Taylor Tedmore?
Yes.
Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. We're now going to move on to item 9B2, the donation of Fannin Elementary. Is there a motion regarding the donation of Fannin Elementary?
I move to authorize this. I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into negotiations and execute the proper documents with the nonprofit Let Us Breathe Abilene for donation of the property, and that the board instructs the superintendent to ensure the inclusion of certain reasonable deed restrictions that will protect the interests of Abilene ISD in perpetuity after this donation is made.
Perfect.
Second.
There's a second. Now take a roll call vote. Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. And now let's move on to matters pertaining to our safety and security, which is item 9C1. Is there a motion regarding the appointment of new school marshals?
I move to approve the appointment of new school marshals as presented in closed session.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Let's take a roll call vote. Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0. Next is item 9C3, good cause exception. Is there a motion regarding our good cause exception? I will move to approve the authorization of the good cause exception for the Abilene Independent School District in alignment with board policy CKE legal, and authorize the superintendent to develop and maintain all applicable provisions of this exception.
Second.
Okay. We'll now take a roll call vote. Blair Schrader,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Angie Wiley, yes. Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Danny Wheat.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10, there being no further business this meeting. Oh, wait, I do have something. Thank you for providing to us our sheets that are at your desk. I would encourage you to leave them here, the laminated pieces. And in a session, essentially, I could consider this our Capturing Kids' Hearts social contract for our board. Let's just do it. And reading the board members' ethics as a reminder, each having that there for us, is a great social contract for our board. So, and along with our mission and our vision and our strategic priorities, which we have asked to have in front of us, and thank you for doing that. I'm sure.
Credit goes to Robin.
Figure. Right, anyway, thank you, and we'll keep those here at our desks, and y'all can just leave them, don't pick them up, can they stay here? Or put out every week, I don't care. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The time is 8:38.
Thank you, everyone.